Hi my friends, this is another video that I talked to you about in the information video that I put on LinkedIn and Facebook. In this particular case, we're going to talk about three cases, three wells that we had the potential, like I said, we had the potential in the well, and we tried to put it in the surface. Two of the wells were successful and one of them were not, because the information that we got from the field was not accurate, and we since we had done the two successful ones before, so we thought we weren't in front of a similar case, and that was not the case, by the way. And then we're going to talk about those three cases, and I just wanted also to let you know that sometimes some water, when it shows up in the reservoir and in the wells, depending on the condition of the water, can produce what we call calcium carbonate restrictions in the perforations, and the normal behavior of that effect is that the water cut start increasing, because the oil that remains in the reservoir is not coming out because of the restriction of the calcium carbonate. Well, we know the water is already in the reservoir, but there's still oil there. And what do we think normally? We think that the water is occupying all the reservoir, and we start isolating those intervals, and there's still oil there. Okay, all we need to do is eliminate the restrictions and try to put some inhibitors so that it won't get back so fast. So we're going to see those three cases that they have to do with this, with the calcium carbonate, and they also have some lifting method issues. Okay, so let's take a look at those three cases, my friends. Okay, this is the title of the presentation: more cases of optimizing potential from the well up. Okay, that's the case we have. Let me see here. The first case we're talking about is a case where, like I said, the reservoir started producing water, and the restriction were starting to build up in the perforations, and we could see the water cut to increase, and the oil production, being reduced. So they had done before this. They did they used to do fracture job. I'm talking about a long time ago, okay? And then they could communicate some of the sands behind the casing, okay? And then when we went to this field, we could see some fluid levels, dynamic fluid levels, that were reported from the operator. We were not operating the field. We're just helping in the engineering part. So we could see good levels reported, and we saw the opportunity to change the socket rod system to ESP system, to reduce the bottom half flowing pressure and like I said before, increase the production. So in this particular case, the well was producing around 80 barrels of oil per day, and it went up to 250. So the economics at this time were okay with the oil prices. Okay, this is how when the water is the water quality is appropriate to create what we call a precipitation of calcium carbonate. This is what happens. We have CO2, we have water, we build this H2CO3, and then when you get together with the calcium, that's where we get this calcium decomposes in water and CO2 and the precipitation. This is what causes this restriction. Okay, and what do we see in those wells? We see a good production at the beginning, around 1,500 barrels, and when water starts get it in the reservoir, the water production increases very high, and the oil starts, reducing. What we do normally, because we think there's no more oil in the sand, we start installing, plugs and isolating those zones, and there is still oil there. There is oil there. So we the first thing we isolated was this one, then we isolated this one, until we converted this well in a 60 barrel oil well, and the water cut was still there. It's still there. Okay, so when we saw those fluid levels being reported by the operator, we saw the opportunity of increasing the production by changing the lifting system to reduce this bottom hole flowing pressure. We did it, and we got this production. We could increase, like I said, from 80 to 250. This was a successful case. But the message here is that we can go back to these zones, treat this with acid, and we can get oil from this zone. There's still oil there. Oil is there. It's not just water. There's oil. Okay? And that's okay. In this particular case, we got the barrels. Okay? So we take a look at the second one, which is very similar. Very similar. We start getting water, building up the calcium carbonate in the perforations, and we isolate it. We isolated, and we were getting good fluid level, dynamic fluid level, which the dynamic fluid levels in socket rod lifting system tells you the bottom hole flowing pressure. So we wanted to take the same action, because, like I said before, these formations could be present here because the fluid levels were too high. So we decided to, and this is another fluid level, and this is the third one. All of them were reporting good fluid levels. So we saw this apparent bottom hole flowing pressure. So we did the same. We simulated, and we say if we reduce it, if we reduce all this load, we're going to get this production. That's what we did, but we didn't get it this time. We got a poor well. So instead of producing, like it's here, 1,200 barrel of fluid, we produce 300. From 200 to 300, very low. So in this particular case, the fluid levels that were being reported were not real. Okay? But the opportunity to go back to this zone and clean this restriction here, and get back some of this oil is still there. This is a field that had a lot of wells, and all of the wells had the same problem. A lot of sands being isolated because they thought it was full of water, and that's not true. There's still oil there. Okay, so this well was not successful. This is the one I told you was not successful. So, but anyway, we got some benefit, but it's not what we expected, because for some reason this fluid level were not real. Okay, we go to the third one. The third one was a well producing, but the pump, the socket rod pump, was very high from the perforations. So we were getting the fluid levels kind of, very close to the pump, but we knew that there were about 4,000 feet from the pump to the perforation. So we knew that we could get a good rate if we install a pump closer to the formation. But again, the same thing, calcium carbonate building up. Calcium carbonate building up. There was the tendency, if we didn't do the, if we didn't install the pump lower, because the calcium carbonate was already being formed in the perforation. So if we didn't do think this was the tendency of the production. So what did we do? We installed an ESP close to the formation. We increased the gross rate, but the water cut started being, it was being increased, and the oil being lower. We took some action. We did some acid job. Well, we did it. This is an important point. We did it bullheading. Bullheading is not good because you have a lot of intervals. So when you do a bullheading, the acid, the treatment, goes to where the damage is not, where we don't have restrictions. So it's not very effective, okay? So we need to do it isolating it. Try to clean each one of them. Don't do it from bullheading. You don't do it. Another thing that we did, we installed a screen because this well was supposed to be producing solids. But I went to the well when we got the pump out of the well, and there was no solid. I called the office, but they didn't want to avoid the screen. So we didn't, we got I would say, a spot production good, but then started back going down because we didn't do it right. We didn't do the acid job right, and we installed a screen. So that's the case where what's the recommendation here? Do the isolating of the interval and treat each one separately, making sure that we clean the perforations. And by the way, we should inject an inhibitor to, try to avoid the building up of the calcium carbonate to be slow in time, so we can get more time with good production. So this is normally occurring in wells where the water is very, I don't remember the word, but it's very good water to build up the restriction for calcium carbonate. Okay, my friend, those are 3 cases. I can see fields where we can do this isolated treatments and we can get good production. In fact, we did a well with this same behavior, and it was closed. It was an idle well. And we went to the well, we got rid of the bridge, the plugs, and did isolated treatments, and those wells, that well was not producing anything, and we put it back to 250 barrels of oil per day in that field. And this field has a lot of wells, so we can take this same action to all the wells, and we can put this field in when I was there, it was producing 2,000 barrels. I know we can get this field back to 5,000, 6,000 barrels by doing acid jobs and going back to the same zones that were isolated because of water production, but there is still oil. They have oil in those zones. Okay, I wanted to share with you these 3 cases, and hope I could pass my point, and that you, if you have more question about it, you just ask him in the channel, Oil and Gas Guru. Get in the channel and ask me, because there are a lot of fields with this same problem. Isolated zones because we thought it was full of water, but there is still oil there, my friends. Thank you very much. And don't use much the screens. Try not to use them, because they also restrict a lot the production. Thank you very much. I'll see you next video. Thank you.